To give people an idea of my background, my brother in England, the youngest one next to me, he basically broke down, and we went through 3 years of abuse and violence and shouting and screaming. And my eldest brother tried to commit suicide, but thankfully he was found in time. And then I have another brother, then the next one down, he did commit suicide and was successful, unfortunately. That's why I went to Grow, because it was just coming up to his first year anniversary when I first went to Grow. So I mean, all the group got was somebody crying in the corner for most of it, and that was okay too. And I remember standing outside that door, hearing a bit of crack going on in a group. And I remember thinking, I mean, it brings me back to number 6 of the 12 steps. We committed to the journey, even through tough times. The we part, I was never really good with people in general. I always found, plants, animals, things like that, I was great. I was always bubbly like I am now, but underneath I wasn't great. So the thought of a group session really was not something I would have jumped at all. But then I kind of pushed myself, because at that stage I was on my way to work. I was still working. I was on my way to work, and I was parking in the car, and I was actually vomiting out the door about 4 or 5 times before I even went to do a day's work with the anxiety. So I kind of thought to myself, well, Zameel, you have to get a grip. This might help. You've tried everything else. So I remember going in, and the group was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I have to say, they were very warm, welcoming, non-judgmental, no expectations of me, which was the best thing for me. There was absolutely no expectations. And I only had to sit there and listen. Now, I remember it was on for about 2 hours. And sure, at that stage, my concentration couldn't even take 5 minutes, let alone 2 hours. And I remember sitting there at one stage going, oh my God, are they chanting? When they were doing the prayers together and the bits and pieces, well, not prayers, the serenity prayer, when they were talking together and they were doing the program. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, it's 2 hours. How am I going to do this? And I was thinking more internally inside my head than I was within the group for the first 3 months at least. So for new growers, I really get it. You don't know what's going on around you half the time, let alone in a group meeting. So it did take me about 3 months. They kept giving me the task to come back, and I did. And as time went on with the meetings, I realized why it took 2 hours, why the structure was there, how important it was. And at that point then I started to kind of learn a lot more. The one thing, the first Grow saying, obviously, that I kind of worked on was, I can compel my muscles and limbs to act rightly in spite of my feelings. There's many a day I wanted to pull the duvet over me and not move out of the house or even leave sunlight into the room. But then when I worked on that, then there was another part of the program when it became a little bit more clear in my head that really hit home to me with my family upbringing. It was mental health can't be taught, it has to be learned together. I was never given that opportunity growing up. My mum went on for about 4 years, and abuse through alcohol. And my only way, I thought, to see out was, after watching all the 4 brothers leave prior, was to get educated, because as I saw, if you got educated, you could have money. That was my thought at 12. So that's exactly what I did. And I'm back at college now, actually studying social studies. So I suppose maybe all this journey was for a reason.
You've highlighted really well how you could be the strongest person in the world, but if the people around you are falling apart and weighing heavily on you, it's almost as bad as having the illness yourself, or it is as bad, because you've got all that pressure.
Yeah, it's worse, because I suppose when you have the illness yourself, people make exceptions, like doctors and government bodies, about paying the bills or whatever. But when you don't have the illness and you're trying to support somebody else, and often for the thankless job of it, it's just horrid, really. It's harder, I think, being the person trying to support the other people sometimes, especially when it's family, especially. So only with Grow's help, I suppose, whether it's the right or the wrong thing, we had to move house. because our life was being threatened. So we had to sell up and move home. And thankfully, I have an amazing husband. I've been with him for over 30 years of my life, and he's lived through all of this as well. Mum was very sick towards the end for the last couple of years. So we took her in and we looked after her, we cared for her, and she died of lung cancer. So I suppose at least we had the opportunity to kind of make up and to, but even at the end, she still said to me how I disappointed her rather than, the other way around. But that's the way my family were. And I remember the day she died, I rang up my father and he said, and I said, look, Mum has passed away. And he said, whatever about that, and started screaming down the phone at me about something else that he wasn't happy with. So after that day, I never picked up the phone and contacted him again. That was 14 years ago. And I moved to this house on the 19th of December last, so it's not even a year. And that week, I made a very clear decision. I was watching all this and I was like, this is not what I want for my daughter or my life. I said, okay, enough is enough. So I basically cut off my whole entire family. They don't know where I live. They don't know what I do. They don't have any contact with me or my husband or my child. And to be quite honest, I'm going to keep it that way for safety reasons as well. I know a lot of people might think it's dramatic, but I suppose after 40 years of continual verbal and violent abuse, I'm just not taking it anymore, and I'm not leaving my daughter safe.
I think that's something that a lot of people come to the realization that if they continue with this circle of friends or with my family, that my life is going to be a lot harder, and that maybe things would get easier if I didn't have these people in my life. So was that a really difficult decision to make? And are you happy that you made that decision?
It's an extremely difficult decision to make. It's like it's inbred into us, to especially Irish, family. It's inbred into us, and I suppose also that we were raised by a single mom. It kind of you pull together. You should pull together more, but I suppose we didn't. We separated more. Um, yeah, it's a horrid. I'm glad I made the decision because I don't think I would be here today if I hadn't. And I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for Grow and a Grow program. I would definitely have committed suicide without a doubt. Yeah.
I feel like you're a really good example of when everything is against you. It seems like an insurmountable odds around you, and you've managed to pull yourself out of the depths of hell.
So I suppose that's the tough times. I mean, it affected me, like, I suppose, I should have been admitted to hospital, really, because I got to the stage where I couldn't even remember with the post-traumatic. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, no wonder. But I remember going to the doctor and saying, I can't even remember what time to pick up my child. My memory was that bad. And she was like, oh, it'll pass. And it was like, it's very easy for a doctor to sit there and say, oh, it'll pass, when
Mhm.
I can't even remember simple, basic things. And the feeling of going mad, internally, and people can't see it outside. I don't see the point in going out and saying to everybody, oh, I have such a horrible life. But that's why Grow meetings is so important to me, because it's a place where I can go and I can say this. And I get, very good advice and people who've been there before. And like, you don't have to explain everything because they get it. They understand it. They know how hard it is. They've been on that journey too. So I suppose it's, that journey, I mean, just going back to my own life, I've went from, even physically looking at me, I've went from over 19 stone to 6 stone in my life. I've had my heart to stop pumping. The stress that is entailed and the breakdown of my body. I'm only in my early 40s. I have 3 bulging discs, 2 knees that need to be replaced, a hip that needs to be replaced, and arthritis all over my left hand side and my right hand starting on my right, on my right hand side and starting on my left. So that's the only to kind of give you, I suppose, keeping things internally, how it affects your body and your mind, and the stress. Stress is a killer. Stress, your mind, that's the one thing Grow shows you. Your mind, you are in control of your mind. Even yeah, it takes a lot of work, you know, it takes a lot of effort. It takes going to the programs regularly. But like before, I would never have went into a full room of people. But like even with when we meet up in the regional teams and stuff like that in the hotels, it's a completely different feeling with a grow group. I would never be able to do that with, as I would say, ordinary people. But with growers, there's no pressure. There's no, it's hard to describe it. It's like in the air when you walk in, you can feel it straight away. It's like I still have wobbles today. That's what I call them, setbacks, you know, but I call them wobbles because they're not as bad as they used to be before. I went into a very dark place. I couldn't, it was tunnel vision. I couldn't see a way out. Now, if I'm like that, I'll pick up the phone. I'll phone one of my girlfriends. I'll go to a meeting, even extra meetings if needs be. You know, just to help me through that time. There's the support. There's a book. There's literature. You know, as I said, I'm dyslexic. I find reading very hard. I find writing very hard. I remember the first time reading out at a grow meeting, the nerves inside of me. But like, you know, after the years went on, like I had the strength to tell them I do have learning difficulties. I do find reading hard. I do, but there's you know, it's good because again they'll help you. Like, you know, there's always so, and now it's my turn to help. And I suppose looking back at me ever during my life, I would have never have done something like this so public.
Yeah.
Never. But after seeing that from a place where you have no joy, no sense of hope, and then finding the Grow program. So
Oh, you're going to make me cry. I need to go get tissues now.
so finding the Grow program and the Grow way and the Grow ethos and the whole movement, I suppose Grow is, because I find it is a movement. It's a very strong movement. It's a very secretive movement for some strange reason. I don't know why people don't know very much about Grow, or I definitely advertise it. Myself and my friends all know now that I go, and I don't feel like I'm the nutcase going to these meetings like I did at the start, you know. It's generally more acceptable, you know, mental health, especially now during COVID, it's really shining through, you know, the tough times. And I suppose the reason why I'm doing this is solely to show people you can go through so much hell, you know, but there is a way out. There is a coping mechanism. There are people willing to help. It mightn't be the people that you'd want to help, that what you want to help, like your family and stuff like that, but they do help, and in turn it helps you to, you know, to make your decisions and to get along better with your family and your relationships, or not, if the case may be. So I suppose that's the second word in the line, committed. So we is the group, committed is the work that we do as growers. The journey is what took us to this side of our mental health. And even through the tough times, you know, the tough times, they're still coming, they're still here. But I don't go into such a dark and miserable place anymore. You know, I can vocalize it, I can sit down, I can state my case, whereas before I could never do that. It was all internal. And now my daughter in return is learning this as well. And she's, you know, unconsciously learning the 12 steps. And I promote it, you know, and I would promote it to anybody. And that's solely the reason why I'm here today as a mature grower. And you know, it's a circle, it's never ending. It is work, but it does get easier with time.
That's great. You obviously grew up and you could see everyone around you and your family with their own mental illness. So did you feel like it was against the odds that you would live a normal life?
Yes, yeah. I can see the challenges, you know, that it brought, but um I do still worry about the schizophrenia, you know. I do still think, you know, sometimes I kind of stop myself and think, oh, is this what an ordinary person would do, or is this my, you know, bad mental health? But I suppose with Grow, I don't tend to worry about it as obsessively anymore, because I know in my Grow meeting they will turn around and say, "Ah, Zameel, you're out of line there now. You're wrong." So that's what keeps me in check and keeps me to be the ordinary person. And it's knowing when to stop, and knowing, you know, and I suppose not forgetting about those in your immediate family. Your family of origin are your family of origin, but they're also adults. To live. Don't forget to live your life. Don't forget to work on your joy.
You seem to be reversing the family traits and just bringing up your child in a positive, mentally healthy environment. So well done. That's brilliant. That's a real achievement. You've managed to stop the dysfunction in your family.
Thanks, Tracey.
Yeah, well done.
I wouldn't have been able to do that without the Grow program, because I don't think I would have realized the full implications of it without the Grow program. So it kind of gives you a realization as well,
And we ask everyone in these videos, how would you sum Grow up in one word?
Oh, that's a very.
You can take your time.
Yeah. My one word for Grow: support.
That's great. No one has said that one yet. I heard your story when you sat in on one of my meetings and you gave your testimony, and my jaw nearly hit the floor, because I was thinking, you seem like a very together person and very confident and bright and bubbly, like you said. And to hear the horrible past that you've had, I just couldn't believe how far you've come. So I feel like you're nearly a miracle person, that you're still alive, for one, and that you're functioning well and you're having a good influence on the people around you. And I think in Grow, what you're doing is you're helping other people to come a step away from the edge of the cliff. Do you notice that in your life, that because of where you've been, you're able to help more people?
Oh yeah, yeah. And like, I often realize as well, because of where I've been and because of using Grow and the Grow program and the group method, that often it isn't words that people need. It's just to sit and listen. And when a grower listens, it's a different type of listening, because they get it, mainly because they've been on that side of that cliff.